Hello, guys. So today we're going to be talking about Unit 4.1 Role of Marketing. Um, these are the learning objectives that we're going to be taking. We're going to understand what marketing is, role of marketing. We're going to talk about goods, services, market orientation, product orientation, commercial, social marketing, market characteristics, market share, market leadership. Okay? Now, as you can see here, these are some definitions of marketing. Marketing has been defined in different ways from different people through time. There has been many definitions defining marketing, and these are some of them. If we look here, marketing is defined as the management process responsible for identifying, anticipating, and satisfying consumers' requirements profitably. The management task that links the business to the customer by identifying and meeting the needs of customer profitably. You can check these out, look at them. You can also check a lot. I have already uploaded some videos explaining what marketing is through the eyes of uh, uh, different scholars and different people. Now, uh, what exactly is marketing? Now, I'm sure most of you have the concept of, oh, yes, marketing must be advertising, or it must be, selling, or, promotion and stuff like that. So, probably the only thing you can think of whenever I say marketing is the concept of the whole concept of selling a product to people or to customers, or promoting for that product and advertising for it. But actually, marketing is much more than that. Marketing does not start with advertising for the product itself. Marketing actually begins from the process of actually uh, creating the product, and even before creating the product, the idea itself. Let's say I decided to invent a new. I remember one of the students said before, was it um, an electronic mirror that identifies disease, something like that? Let's say a new invention. So from the point of since the beginning, where let's say I decided to create that electronic mirror, basically this is where um, my marketing begins. Okay. Basically, marketing is about research. It's about creating the product, pricing the product, delivering the product, placing the product where it is. It's about research. It's about what is the right strategy to, what is the right market, how can we penetrate that market, what way shall we choose, what method, what kind of customers do we want to target, and all of these things. Marketing is not just about advertising. No, it's about the whole process from A to Z of the process of delivering a product to consumers, a profitable product, let's say. Okay, now let's talk about marketing and its relationships with other business functions. Okay, so we already talked before in our previous classes about the relationship between two different functions, two business functions. We talked that there is usually in an effective business, there is usually a relationship between, let's say, two business functions like finance, marketing, like finance, operation, and so on. Now, in this chapter, we're basically looking into marketing and the relationship of marketing with other business functions. And when I say business functions, I'm talking about business departments, I'm talking about business, the departments inside the business, as in finance, operations. I remember the things that we talked about in Unit 1.1, 1.2. Now, um, so finance is all about what? Finance, let's say finance and account, it's all about the money. Okay, so basically, what can be the relationship between marketing and finance? Let's take a very simple example you guys can relate to. Uh, the marketing campaign or the market research or any marketing activities actually requires finance. It requires money, basically, um, which is why it's very important that these two departments have a relationship. These two departments actually have good communication, so that they're able to communicate on how to deliver, you know, uh, on how to deliver to each other. Okay. Now another relationship is between marketing and human resources. Now, basically, human resources are responsible for what? For the human resources are basically responsible for all employees in a business, which is why the marketing employees are actually recruited by the human resources department. Okay, and basically all of them are related to HR. If marketing wants to hire, let's say, a new promoter or a new staff, they can just contact human resources. And then we have operations. Operations are linked with marketing as well. Basically, when the marketing department are actually creating the product, or let's say even designing the product, they have to consult with the operations, because at the end, the operations department is the department who is going to basically create the product, as in manufacture, as in assemble the product. So the relationship between these two departments is actually quite important, um, because they actually work together in a lot of things, especially the creation of the product. And we're going to talk about the we're going to talk about marketing mix later on. You'll understand the relationship in 4.4, I believe. You're going to understand the relationship between operations and marketing in a much better way. Okay? Now, moving on to market characteristics. What do I mean by market characteristics? I'm talking about the characteristics of how a market is see. Actually, let's do it this way. Let's take it one by one to help us understand in a better way. Let's start with market size. So market size here is defined as the total level of sales of all producers within a market. What do I mean by that? I mean that market size, it's not just, let's say, the size of a, I don't know, the size of, let's say, how do we say, okay, the size of the shoes market is this much or that much? Basically, um, let's talk about actually the phone market, as you're all familiar with it. How do we measure or understand what's the market size of the phone market, a smartphone? We go to every single producer. We check Apple sales, we check Samsung sales, we check, I don't know, Google sales, Samsung sales, Huawei sales. We check all of these companies' sales when it comes to smartphone, and then we can understand the market size of the smartphone market. Okay, and I'm gonna talk about market size and the calculations related to market size in another video, just to help you understand it in a better way with the use of a whiteboard to help me explain it to you in a better way. Today we're just gonna take a hint about it. Okay, now why is the size of a market, why is it important for us as a company to understand what is the size of a market? First of all, the marketing manager can assess whether a market is worth entering or not. Let's say the market size of this of smartphones is not that big. Okay, it does not sell that much. It's not going to be profitable for me as a business owner to enter that market. Okay, uh, second reason is that business can calculate their own market share by understanding the market size of that market, I can actually calculate my own market share. If I entered that market, how much market share would I own? How much would profit? How much would my profit would be? Okay. Now the third reason is growth or decline of the market can be identified. Um, from the patterns of the market, from the market size and the pattern that has been the past few years for these producers within that market, I can actually identify if that market has a growth potential or a decline potential. Am I going to gain money when I enter that market, or am I going to lose money? Okay. Now, let's move on to market growth. Now, what do we mean by market growth, which is another market characteristic? Now, market growth is defined as a percentage change in the total size of a market, okay, over a period of time. Again, the percentage change in the total size of a market over a period of time. Simply, let's say a that smartphone market size in 2011 was 50%. In 2012, sorry, in 2013 it was 45, or in 2019 it was 70%, which tells us that in 2019 the smartphone market grew a lot. It's simply how much more is it growing, or is it increasing in value, that market, or is it declining in value? Okay. Now, some markets are actually, when I say market, I'm talking about, let's say, smartphone market, or let's say computer market, or electronic market, or fish market, stuff like that. Not actually, not fish market. I'm just as in the good, the product, the market of that product itself. Okay. Now, as I've been saying, uh, the growth of that market, or the growth of every market, actually depends on several things like economic growth, consumer income, development of new markets. Just right now, with the whole coronavirus thing, many markets have grown enormously, right? Let's not go far away. Masks have been, value of masks have grown enormously. So is pharmaceutical as well, and several markets has been growing enormously since the whole pandemic of coronavirus. So that gives us an example on market growth, and the circumstances or the factors actually basically increase the growth of a market or boost the market sales, and not. Okay. Now, let's go to competitors and ease of entry. Now, what do I mean by ease of entry? Ease of entry is basically there isn't any barriers. Okay. Let's say, is it easy to enter a smartphone market? There are basically so many competitors right now, and there are so many competitors right now, and it's not really easy for anyone to enter to be, let's say, a smartphone manufacturer. So what I'm trying to say is, with the existence of many competitors, and not only many competitors but strong competitors, it becomes very difficult for any company to enter any market. Okay. which is why uh, any business or any person who is interested in investing or is interested in penetrating any market needs to have a good market research and make sure that basically that market is actually penetratable, and that market actually have, you know, um, basically it's easy to enter that market. Okay. Now, let's talk about differentiated or homogeneous products. Okay, let's start with homogeneous product. What do I mean by homogeneous products? Simple. Homogeneous products are stuff like milk, like water. Uh, we have different brands of brand. Let's take milk for an example. We have, let's say, Al Marai. right? We have Neda, I think. We have Nordic. We have uh, Saudia, and we have, I think, several brands of milk, as far as I understand, as far as I remember. So we have several types of milks. Is it? I mean, usually people go to the supermarket and just buy a something they favor, but when you compare all of these brands, there isn't any big differentiation between all these brands. Yes, there isn't any, oh, I'm gonna buy this because I'm gonna buy this milk because it's, I don't know, it's different from the other milk. Usually most of them have the same bottling or similar bottling. Most of them have similar taste, so it's basic milk. This is what we call a homogeneous product, a product that is physically identical or viewed as identical by consumers. Okay, so is water. Most of us feel that it's the same water, whether it's Arwa, whether it's Aquafina, it's water. Okay, differentiated is actually the opposite. Okay, differentiated products are actually the opposite of homogeneous product. Okay, differentiated products are products that have a, like, let's say the example of Apple and Samsung. They have differentiated things. Let's say Apple have some people would claim that Apple have better cameras than Samsung and so on. They have something different than the other brand. Okay, let's move to segmentation. So what do I mean by segmentation? Segmentation means dividing a market into distinct groups of consumers who share common tastes and requirements. Again, dividing a market into distinct groups of consumers who share common tastes and requirements. Usually, when it comes to market segmentation, usually most businesses does it this way. They segment people, for example, by their age. Let's say ages 18 and below, 18 to 25, 26 to 35, something like that. Usually, people with similar ages have similar uh, tastes. Let's say they have common tastes, they have common requirements, and not just like that. For example, university students, they have similar common taste. uh, Bankers, for example, they have common taste, um, and so on. So basically what segmentation means is just grouping people into different groups. Basically those groups are similar, those people in those groups, those members in those groups are actually similar to each other. They have similar taste, they have common taste, common requirements. This is what we call by segmentation. And usually segmentation is quite beneficial for a business because basically choosing one product, or let's say targeting one segment and creating a product based on the taste of that segment helps usually helps the uh, let's say the producer, or the helps the company provide a better product and helps them understand the consumer in a better way, because eventually they do have a customer, they understand the customer, they know the characters of the customer. Unlike unlike mass marketing, target marketing actually understand the diversity of customers, that it does not try to satisfy them all, because it's very difficult to create a product that will satisfy all ages. Let's say a product might satisfy youngsters and might not satisfy children, and so on. So target marketing is something very effective in marketing. Okay, now let's take a look at differences between marketing goods and marketing services. Marketing goods, we all know that goods are usually the products that are tangible, can be touched, can be seen, can be felt, but services are basically intangible products that cannot be touched. Okay, services are actually quite tricky, to market. Why is that? First of all, services are consumed immediately. Let's say you go to a Beauty shop, you want to do your hair, you do your hair and that's it. And it's not like buying a phone and okay, that phone's gonna marry you. It's not like buying, let's say, chocolate and then you're gonna take that chocolate with you and so on. Maybe you consume it now, maybe later, but services are consumed immediately. So uh, basically, what can I say? Services are not, also they cannot be taken back to be repaired or replaced. Let's say you bought a blender, you bought a blender and it turned out to be defaulted, you took it back, then you replaced it or repaired it and so on. But the service quality cannot be repaired. If you go to do your hair at the beauty shop and you didn't like it, what happens? Sometimes, okay, maybe some beauty salons actually will replace it or will refund you, but most of them do not. It's not their problem that you didn't like it. Or let's say it's actually their problem, but some beauty shops does not really apply this idea. But my point here is basically it's more difficult to market service because it's not something you can see, it's not something you can actually show. Let's say if I'm going to promote for let's say I'm going to promote for uh, a phone, I'm just gonna create a full video or an ad on TV showing the specifications or pictures of the phone. But on the other side, if I just, for example, want to market my consulting services, how am I going to do that? Am I going to put people on the people consulting other people as an example? We can't do that. Okay, so I'm just trying to explain to you that it's a bit tricky to market services, which is why the business must be very careful and very clever. Now, let's talk about building trust. Um, Trust is one of the most important things in businesses, especially for differentiated products. Okay, as you can see, Apple has a lot of you, I'm sure, are very, very fond of your iPhones and you cannot let anyone say any bad thing about it. You will never replace your iPhone probably. Point is, you are extremely loyal to Apple. You extremely trust them no matter what. Apple has built that trust between you and them. They have earned you because they made sure that you trust them. Um, so basically, they sold confidence and trust to you guys. Okay, they sold, and so as many businesses, which is why building trust is extremely important for the success of a business. Time for delivery. If a business, let's say, if a restaurant, simple example, if a restaurant tells you, I'm going to deliver your food in 20 minutes and delivers it in 1 hour, are you going to order again? The possibility of you ordering again from that place is extremely low. So basically, you're probably not going to order from there again. You're just going to order from another place that will give you your product at the time that that has promised. Because actually, time is like a marketing a tool. It's like marketing the service, because if you promise to do something with a time frame, then you must deliver it, because that shows what kind of business you are. Okay. Basically, especially when it comes to services, services sometimes take time. For example, let's talk about consulting. We did a consulting project for a company a few years ago, and that project literally took us around 8 to 9 months to complete. Now, usually consultants are paid in advance, okay? So they're actually paid an amount of money and then they conduct the research and then they give the consultancy to the firm. Now, how do customers go to companies like that? How do companies actually convince customer that, wait, your product is going to be delivered to you in the best way possible, but you need to wait, you need time? How do you do that? Usually consulting firms they usually have testimonials, as in feedback from other customers, and usually important customers, that state that yes, we have received this service, we were very happy, and so on. This is one of the ways that they actually are trying to do. But proving that you are able to deliver the product or the service is extremely important. Let's move to relationships. Relationships, not just in marketing, but in all aspects of business, is extremely important, and building long-term relationship is even more and more important, especially with consumers. Now, how do you build a long-term relationship? By applying the things that I just talked about, by building trust, by delivering on time, by promising them that your products will be delivered no matter what. You build a reliability, you establish a relationship of trust between you and the customer as a business to get a positive feedback, okay? Let's move to perceived value. What do we mean by perceived value? It says here that basically perceived value is, let's say, perceived value is like, it's just like Apple and iPhones. Everyone thinks if I have an iPhone, then most iPhone users have an emotional connection with the phone and with the company, so they have an emotional attachment, okay, which is why no matter how high the product price goes, they will keep buying a new one every year. They will keep buying a new one every year. And you notice that the iPhone price is not really does not go down every year. It goes up and up and up, because even when it becomes higher in price, people would say that yeah, if it's higher, then it's even better. Sometimes providing products with lower cost, even though they're better, devalue them. So basically what I'm trying to say here is, if the customer is perceived value is like what the customer believes. Oh, I believe this is a good product, this is a good service, and I want to receive it. So basically the customer is, he has a perceived value. He knows this is worth this and this is worth this, which is why that person would never give up that product, or would never give up dealing with that company. Okay. This is basically part 1 of our lesson for 4.1. We're going to be talking about part 2 in our next session. Okay? Thank you very much. Stay safe, and I'll see you next time.